In the previous chapter, we took a quick look around the Revit environment and we learned how to open and create projects. So I'm in a file called Levels and Grids, and this was created from the commercial template project at the end of the last chapter. This is just the default commercial template. Nothing's been changed yet. And what I want to start off with is most buildings have some floor levels and many buildings have some sort of a column grid, locations where the columns occur. Both of these things we can designate in Revit. We can add floor levels that actually represent the actual stories of the building, the actual floor levels of the building, a landing on the stairs or a button on the elevator, if you will. And we can create column grids that locate where the various columns will be. So in this movie, I'd like to do both of those things to kind of get us set up so that we can start adding geometry. So the way that you add levels is to go to one of your elevation views. So I'm going to scroll down here on the project browser to my elevations, and it doesn't really matter which one I open. So I'm going to open up the south elevation just by double-clicking it. And as you can see, I've got several dashed lines running across the screen. Now, these dashed lines represent the edges of the floor level. So think of this as the finished floor height for level 1. I've got it highlighted. You can see that one's level 1. Now, I'm going to come over here and put my mouse at this right-hand side, and I'm going to roll it slightly to zoom in, just so we can read those labels a little bit better. And you can see that in addition to level 1, I have 2 footing levels, and I have a roof level. If we scroll back up here on the project browser, levels are the primary datum element in your project. So they're like a horizontal plane that cuts through the building and establishes a height. Furthermore, levels can be associated with floor plans. So if you look here on screen, you see this level 1. You'll notice that the name is level 1, and there's a corresponding level 1 floor plan and level 1 ceiling plan. So both of those are associated to this level 1 floor plan. Notice here there's a roof level floor plan. There's also a bottom of footing and a top of footing. Now, for this project, we're going to keep it relatively simple. So let's go ahead and add another level to this building. I want to add a second floor to this building. So I'm going to drag with my wheel slightly to give myself a little bit of room. And I could rename the roof level and then add a new roof up above, but I actually find it easier to select my roof level. I'm going to click right on the text here that makes up the height of that level. It's currently at 12'8", and I'm going to change that to 30 and press enter. That will move the roof up to 30 feet and allow plenty of space here in between for me to add the new level. Now, to add the new level, I'm going to zoom back out so I can see the full extent of the level. And then here on the Architecture tab, over here on the Datum panel on the right, I will find a Level button. I'm going to click that. If you move your mouse around in the middle of the space between level 1 and roof, toward the end, you'll see a small little dashed line appear when you're lined up with the end. So I want to make sure it's lined up with the end, and I'm going to click, and then I'm going to drag it over to the opposite end, and again, make sure it lines up with that little dashed line, and when it does, I'll click again. Now, what you'll see is that actually created the level, and over here, I get a level 2 floor plan, I get a level 2 ceiling plan, and there's actually now a level 2 structural plan. Now, it turns out I didn't really want the level 2 structural plan, so I can actually just select it here on the project browser and delete it. Okay, so I'm only interested in the floor plans and the ceiling plans at the moment. Now, I'm going to click back over here in the drawing window, click my modify tool to cancel the command. I want to select it here. And I want to make sure that level 2 is at 16 feet. So I'm going to click right on here and change it to 16. And notice that it will move that level up. Now I want an additional level above the roof to mark where the parapet is going to be. And this level, I don't want any associated floor plans. So I'm going to click the level button one more time. And on the options bar here, this checkbox and button is why we got floor plans when we created level 2. If you click the floor plan types, you can see that it's ceiling plan, floor plan, and structural plan. So had I clicked here first, I could have removed structural plan before creating level 2. In this case, what I'm going to do is just simply uncheck the box and not create any floor plans at all. I'm going to highlight over here above the roof, and notice the small little blue dimension that appears on the left-hand side. I want to make sure that says 3 feet, and then I'll click. Drag it across to the other side here. When it's lined up, I'll click again. Click the Modify tool to cancel out of the command. And then I'm going to zoom in on that location. Now, Revit will just name it level 3, so all I have to do is click on it, highlight the name, click again, and type in the name that I want it to have. And I'll go ahead and click in empty white space to deselect. Notice the color here. If it's black, it's letting you know there are no floor plans. If it's blue, it's letting you know there are floor plans. Now, those are the levels. The next thing I want to do is add some grids. So you could add the grids right here in the elevation view as well, but I think it's a little easier to add them in a floor plan. So I'm going to go back to level 1 floor plan. And then here on the datum panel, you'll see the grid button is available. I'll click that. And all I need to do is pick a point down here somewhere, drag it straight up to about the length that I want, and click again. That creates the first grid. I'll come up lined up with it at about 24 feet away, click, and click, keep it lined up to place the second grid. It didn't quite come in exactly 24 feet, so before I go further, I'll just change that number by clicking right on the text and making it 24. Now I'm going to roll in just slightly with the wheel here. Notice the first grid was number 1, and the second one automatically became 2. Let's just keep going, and I'll do a couple more, and I'm just going to keep these at 24 feet for right now. You can make them any distance that your design requires. And I'll do about 5 or 6 of these. Now, the next one I'm going to run horizontally this way. And notice it goes to grid number 7. Before you go to the next one, just click right on the number 7 and change that to big letter A and press enter. And when you do, the next one will become big letter B. I'm going to click on this dimension here, make that 24. And then I'll do 2 more, and these are going to actually be at 28. Now I'm going to zoom out enough that I can see everything, cancel out of the command. So I have lettered grids over here, numbered grids over here. Notice these are too short. I want them to intersect through this one. Click any grid line. It doesn't matter which one. Notice this big open circle right here. If I start dragging it, notice that Revit will not only move the one that I'm dragging, but it will move all of them and keep them all connected together. Finally, if we take a look back at our south elevation, or really any of our elevations, and let's zoom out, notice that grids will appear in the elevation views as well as the plan. So this is why I said it really didn't matter if we created them in plan or elevation, but I prefer to create them in plan. So the levels mark the actual floor locations, the finished floor locations in your building, and the grids are going to be useful later to help us lay out the geometry, such as the columns and so forth. And those two things are common in most buildings. Most buildings have floor levels. Most buildings have a column grid. So it's a pretty good idea to get started with those early in the project. It doesn't necessarily have to be the first thing you do, but it's not a bad idea to get them in there early.